Okay, I see some people answering poll questions. Thank you so much. Again, that poll should be at the bottom. I should have just popped up under polls and quizzes, I believe. And I think we will give this one more minute before we get going. Okay. All right, I'm going to get started with some introductions. With us today is Molly. She is our curriculum specialist. Shawn, who is from sales. Brent, who is our tech director. And myself, I'm a product guy at teaching.com, specifically focused on typing.com. So thank you again for giving up either part of your lunch hour or your after school time, whatever time zone applies to you. Today, we're going to cover some features of the product, what you get with Plus, some things that have changed recently in terms of what's new. And I don't think we're going to go over student rostering options today unless somebody really, really wanted us to do it. That's sort of a beginning of the year thing. Molly's going to talk briefly about standards alignment and our Beyond Typing curriculum. And then we'll get into Q&A. So let us carry on. So first off, I'm going to turn this over to Shawn. Shawn, you want me to just dive into the next slide?
That would be perfect.
Awesome. We'll make this quick.
Yeah, so just want to go over some of the features. We're looking at the poll responses, and there seems to be a mix. So I think we've got some folks who are on here who are probably more familiar with what our Plus option offers, and some who aren't. So just kind of wanted to go through some of the stuff that everyone has access to, and then some of the stuff that you may not be familiar with our Plus offering. So everyone who is using typing.com does have access to our grade-based typing lessons, tests, and games. The grade-based typing lessons are correlated to state standards and ISTE standards. They can get data retention up to 70 days, basic reporting, so kind of just knowing some student activity and what's in there. And they can create custom lessons, one type of custom lesson. We have a couple different areas later on in this presentation where we'll go over more about the custom lessons. And they can use Clever Secure Sync and ClassLink for rostering. That is something that has changed recently, so that is available to all users now. Where things start to differentiate with our Plus offering is that it is a 100% ad-free experience, right? So all ads are removed. We know that that alone can be a decision-making point, right, for some schools and districts that might not allow ads for students. And then we also have our beyond typing content. So beyond the kind of grade-based typing curricula, which is focused just on the basics of keyboarding, we have all kinds of content that goes into digital citizenship, coding, test prep. And again, we're going to talk about that kind of at length in different parts of this presentation. But there's really exciting stuff in there that makes it a much more comprehensive offering. Advanced reporting and analytics, a lot of classroom management tools that make the lives of teachers and districts easier, including things like assignments. They can monitor student participation in real time, set some custom auto grading thresholds, which I think is on the next slide, get to in a second, as well as some other kind of individualized needs at the student level. So on the free accounts, a lot of these settings can be done kind of at the classroom level with our plus features, they can do a lot of these different settings at the student level, making it easier to individualize the content for each student. And you do also get a dedicated account manager with priority support. That might seem like, not so important, but when it comes down to a support issue that you really need solved and you have classes and students in there, having that priority support and one familiar face and point of contact can be really important, which is a nice thing. If you want to, Adrian, hit the next slide. So a couple of the things that I wanted to highlight in there. One of them is the custom lessons. There's some features around custom lessons that Adrian will cover later, but I wanted to go over kind of the importance of custom lessons and how they're being used by some of the teachers that we've spoken to. One of the biggest things that they're doing is creating cross-curricular content with them. So because you can create custom lessons on any content you want, it's a really great way for teachers to bring in content from other subject matter areas, right? So perhaps a book they're reading in a different class, perhaps, they're doing a unit on mammals in a biology class, and they can create typing screens with content. So whether it's vocabulary words that they want to practice, spelling words, definitions, and reinforce the topics from other subject matters through typing, right? So it's a great way to kind of, two birds with one stone and be very efficient, and cover those cross-curricular topics. With Plus, you can not only create the basic typing lessons, you have all the different types. We have shorter sentences, longer sentences. You can even create your own kind of calling letter games, as well as typing tests and kind of open response written prompts as well. Right, so really powerful feature, and comes to life with Plus, where you can use the different types of typing screens that we offer. And then Adrian, if you want to hit the next one. One of the other features that I wanted to highlight was that those personalized settings, and kind of different thresholds that teachers can do on an individual student basis with Plus. So this is really important, and really useful for teachers that have kind of this differentiated classroom where they have a wide range of abilities, and some students that might be a little more advanced and some that are a little less advanced. This allows you to set the different benchmarks. So the benchmarks are kind of how quickly and how accurately a student has to type on each screen in order to proceed to the next one, and can set those benchmarks higher or lower for each individual student, making the content a little bit more difficult or less difficult to kind of meet the student where they're at. And then can also do, similarly, can set the automatic grading of how they're doing on each lesson on an individual student basis. So along with this, they can also, which isn't pictured here, actually set a particular student on a different curriculum altogether, right? So if some students have maybe used typing.com in the past, or they're just much more advanced, and you want to say, hey, we've got third graders, but we're actually going to give this student the fourth grade curriculum or the second grade, depending on where that student's at, can do that on a student by student basis as well. So really a whole lot of tools to control, and meet each student where they're at, making it a lot easier to give them the kind of adequate content that they need.
Great. All right.
With that, yeah.
Yeah, I'll shift back here. I'm going to quickly go through some what's new stuff. This is stuff that in the last few months has changed. I'm not going to spend too much time on it though, because I do want to reserve as much time as possible for some of the other stuff we want to cover, and of course the QA. So, in case you did miss it, we have introduced a number of different things, such as AI specific lessons to our Beyond Typing unit. We also have, I will actually scroll through this as we do this. You can see this is our AI literacy section. Molly can speak to this a bit later. We also enabled accessibility, a number of accessibility improvements most especially stuff like a dyslexic theme or dyslexic font rather, and left and right hand only lessons, and all sorts of other good stuff, high contrast themes. We have custom lesson sharing, so you can share these custom lessons with any of your fellow instructors so that they can incorporate them. Oh, is that not working? Oh, no, that video is not working for that one. All right, that's fine. Let's see. Is this working? Oh, I think my screen share has kind of gone on the fritz. Hmm. Are you still seeing, does it say custom lesson sharing there? I'm going to stop this for 1 second because it's not responding to me. Oh.
It's showing the Plus license usage report.
Oh, it is. Okay, so it's only not updating me. Okay, let's try this again. Yeah. Is it still showing that?
Now it's kind of gone back out to the slides,
Oh,
the full slides
interesting.
show. So maybe you
Okay.
have to still
Yeah,
sharing your screen, but out of the full screen mode.
that's right. Well, I'm not getting any updates, so somebody might have to take over screen sharing if I can do that.
Yeah,
Let's
let
see.
me let me jump on.
Yeah, it's not giving me any updates on my end. The hazards of using an iPad to do your screen sharing.
Let me make sure I can get into full screen first, and then
Yeah, it became unresponsive.
we don't want that.
No, sorry, everyone. Thanks, Shawn.
All right, I think we've got that. Now I just need to find it and go
Okay.
into slideshow. Are we
Great.
looking okay?
Yeah, totally. Thank you again. Plus license
Yep.
usage reporting. This allows you to pull reports on who is consuming plus licenses in your class. So you can actually see the discrete sort of license status of each student. You can advance to the next slide. Assignable only custom lessons. So this means you can create a custom lesson that only appears in the context of an assignment. So you don't have to worry about students sort of plowing ahead and doing custom lessons that you had created only to appear within assignments. You can go to the next one. The ability to restrict the students from playing games until they meet their daily goals. So this was a teacher request actually. So you get your sort of dessert after you've eaten your vegetables. Next slide. And sort of this is my favorite report. It's basically the ability to see how your students have improved over the course of the semester. So basically, on all their tests, for whether they're custom tests or our own timed assessments, it shows you their improvement from the first time they've taken it to the most recent time. You can go to the, and this is more of a end of semester thing, but you can archive classes now. So this is a non-destructive action you can take to clean up your class list. And Molly was kind enough to go through by hand and estimate for every single grade level curriculum and every single lesson how long it took to complete it for that particular grade. So this helps you plan your curriculum out for typing.com very accurately in terms of the actual classroom time it takes. All right. Well, I'm not sure we're going to cover this in this particular session. Brent, you're probably off the hook unless anybody wanted to put their hand up if they wanted rostering methods covered in this particular webinar. But I think we're going to proceed
Yeah,
past
let's
this.
just we'll skip for now and then just encourage you to, if you do have any questions on the roster and kind of put it in the Q&A, we can always circle back. And then with that, I think Molly, we're gonna jump into some of the standards alignment.
Yeah,
We know, are you gonna take over the screen share?
yeah, I'm gonna
Perfect.
release here.
I will do a stop share. So you can see our face is a little bit larger on the screen for the moment.
Yep, let me make sure.
In the meantime, I did see one question come in, and I'll just handle this while we kind of transition. Tyler mentioned, maybe some decorations on the website and some typing tests made for Christmas. So Tyler, to that, decorations on the website, it's something we can, post to our team. Maybe Adrian wants to get a little creative with that. But in terms of typing tests made for Christmas, absolutely, that's something that the custom lessons can be used for, right? And we have actually seen some teachers doing that, right? They want to have holiday themed, whether it's tests or just different lessons or screens, they can, kids can have a little bit more fun with it. So vocabulary, related to the different holidays. So it'd be a great use of the custom lessons to have some different holiday themed lessons in there.
Cool. All right. Well, I am going to chat with you guys a little bit about standards alignment. I myself am a former teacher, so I know how important it is when you are lesson planning to make sure that your students are reaching certain standards and that you can see if there's any cross-curricular things, other standards met maybe while you're teaching typing lessons. So this is our interactive map, and if you choose the state that you are in, I'm going to pick, for example, California because that's where I am. You'll see drop downs with all of the standards and where in the curriculum they're met. So if you click on expand all standards, you can see, for example, this one, these are Common Core standards. Since I'm in California, we follow Common Core. So you can see where in each lesson this standard specifically is met. If we go back to our map and choose a state that has state-specific standards like New York, and we can expand all of these. Also, you can change the grade level. You can see where these standards are met, and that's specific to New York. So if your state has state-specific standards, check out the map and see those will be different. If it doesn't have this interactive drop down and instead it shows up with a PDF, that's because we are still working on transitioning all of these state-specific standards over into this format. So it will be coming if you don't see it already, but you will see a PDF that at least shows where in our curriculum the standards are met. And I think that's it for standards. Shawn, do you want to take over screen sharing?
Okay. Let me jump back in here. Do replace current share. Jump back in. So yeah, beyond typing, and I think I can transition it because it should be fairly quick. I mentioned at the beginning that in our beyond typing, we've got a whole lot of content that is, as it's aptly named, beyond just the typing. It has digital citizenship, media literacy, writing, coding. Before I kind of turn things back over to Molly to actually show you some of those lessons, just wanted to highlight kind of some of the importance, kind of our why we've included that in the curriculum and what we're, hearing as feedback and how this is helpful. Part of it is just, digital skills are becoming more and more necessary in general for students and for, beyond the classroom as they graduate to college and to careers. We also see that it's being mandated, right? So a lot of states have specific legislation that curricula and schools need to include digital citizenship and media literacy. Molly mentioned California. I think California specifically has a law mandating that media literacy gets taught. I think beginning in third grade, I have to check on that, but that it needs to be included in the school's curriculum. We also know that coast to coast, standardized testing is predominantly computer based now, right? So we have our test prep section, which helps with that computer based testing. And again, Molly will show kind of some of the stuff in there. We've seen there have been studies done that show students who have improved keyboarding skills actually have better ELA scores and better writing. This also helps to close equity gaps, right? So including this, building these digital skills, we never know what students have access to outside of the classroom. Not all students have this kind of digital resources to use at home. So offering these through the curriculum and at school can be a big help in closing any equity gaps. And again, just generally preparing students for a modern digital world. So I'll turn it back over to Molly. She'll actually take you through what some of that beyond typing curricula looks like, I think at a few different grade levels as well. So let me stop my share and you can see what we are talking about.
Just before you do that, I noticed that Rajni had a couple questions, and then I just realized I think I'm replying to like only the four of us or whatever when I'm replying to his questions in the webinar chat. Um, Rajni, Brent, the tech director, is going to look up your account and see if he can figure out what that issue you're having with the discrepancies between the times. And you would also ask who to get in touch with regard to plus stuff, and that would be sales@typing.com.
All right, so I'm going to show you guys a little bit more about the Beyond Typing section that Shawn was just discussing. So in our Beyond Typing section, you can see I'm on our curriculum page from the teacher portal, just so everybody knows where I'm at. We have all of these different units over here that are all part of our Beyond Typing section. So I'm currently looking at fifth grade, and then I'll jump to maybe a high school level grade to sort of show kind of the progression there. So all of our grade levels, starting with kindergarten, have digital citizenship in their Beyond Typing section. The lessons are different for fifth grade and fifth grade standards. Also, we look at the ISTE standards when we're creating this content. But we have lessons on using tech responsibly, emerging technology, assistive technology, and even some troubleshooting that leads kids through sort of a choose your own adventure style story where they're trying to decide what's the best path to take when troubleshooting a problem, either with software or hardware. Then down here, more digital citizenship, online behavior, how to create strong passwords, and digital ethics are all important standards for fifth grade students. And then in fifth grade, we start our email practice unit. These are very fun. The kids act as if they're emailing with a historical figure. So there's some cross-curricular stuff there too while they're practicing how to type emails. So that's sort of our digital citizenship section. Our AI literacy unit is new. So there's only a couple of lessons in there at this grade level. There's additional for the upper grades. This starts in third grade, but there will be more content coming. Our creative writing section is really great for practicing free response questions, which is an important test prep skill, which I'll get a little bit more into in our test prep section. But these are all free response typing prompts. Our computer applications units, this starts also in third grade, I believe. and gives kids an introduction to word processing and spreadsheets and presentations. So definitely some good, important stuff there. Our test prep unit, this was a teacher request and a direct result of all of the testing, the state mandated testing going online. And we had teachers saying that their kids weren't prepared to take these digital tests. So we created this test prep unit. There's a section on test prep vocab that's been directly sourced from some of the state testing and the vocabulary that we've seen on those. There's reading comprehension sections where they're reading and then answering some Q&A questions. Um, some fill in the blanks so they can practice creating their own content before they get into written response. And this is similar to our creative writing section, but additionally, we have timed written response here, which is super important because obviously kids only have a certain amount of time to type their responses on these standardized, online standardized tests. And then finally, to wrap up, we have coding. And again, this is different depending on the grade level. Obviously, kindergarten is much more introductory. It's about patterns and sequencing. And then as we get into fifth grade, you see we introduce algorithms and variables, and then actually some block-based code in here. So then just to give you sort of a progression, I will go over this much more quickly because you guys have already kind of seen what our Beyond Typing section has. But so for the high school level, we have things like ethics, values, and privacy, media literacy. We have resume practice. Our AI literacy has different topics in it, things like evaluating AI bias and how to cite AI resources. The creative writing section, similar, layout, but different prompts for this level. Obviously, some college application prep questions. Um, Again, our computer applications unit. And then by the time we get into coding at the high school level, we're into text-based code. And while this may look lean, I can promise you that these are pretty dense lessons, as you can see from the time estimates over here. So yeah, so that's kind of it for our Beyond Typing section. As you can see, there's lots of cross-curricular stuff in there, lots of digital citizenship, which is super important. Yeah. Any
I always
questions?
like to point out with the coding sections that even for students who aren't, necessarily interested in learning code or who don't think that that's going to be in their future, it's really, really good typing practice because you're using a lot of characters and symbols that aren't used as frequently in just kind of like narrative text-based writing. So really stretches the fingers and helps them with different kind of key combinations just as typing practice alone.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
And maybe one more thing while you still have that open, could you just show the kind of like personalized practice? Yeah,
Yeah.
the problem
Yeah.
keys, or even I think the personalized one that's at the end of other units.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so this here, this is it's called personalized practice. It's also problem keys. So this is actually an adaptive lesson. So we analyze what keys specific kids need additional practice with, and then it will generate typing content for them that highlights those specific keys. So I feel like this is definitely something that so it says because I'm just in the teacher portal. This isn't a kid account, but it's saying you need practice with the J and F keys. So then it'll generate content that has extra practice with the J and the F keys. So um, this is something that probably we need to highlight more because it's really cool and it's definitely great for kids who are having problems with very specific keys. So yeah, that's at the end of every unit. So
Every unit and is, adapted to each particular student, right? So it adapts to them based on their problem keys. I think at that moment as well, I believe that also changes over time,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So if they practice that J and F and they really nail it, and then now they're having problems with P, the next time they go in, it's actually going to be different.
yeah, yeah, it's very cool feature.
Cool. Let me reshare once more and we'll catch up. So I think that's the end of kind of our main content. And unless anyone has anything else they want to add, we can kind of open up the floor to any questions that folks may have.
Yeah,
We've got a
let's do
fair amount
that.
of time blocked off, so can
Yeah, I
definitely
can
dive
see
in.
Tisha had asked a question in her registration, and she is here, I believe, right now. Yes, she is. She says, I have assigned games and my students say that they type the amount of time and it does not give them credit to advance. Tisha, that's going to have to be something we've got your email here, so we'll have to get back to you on why that might be. We can look into your account and figure out what we're seeing.
One thing I can add to that, Adrian,
Yep.
is that when you assign a game, it has to be played at a certain level. So we have levels and like type. So for instance, hard with home row keys, right? So when you create an assignment, you assign that specific thing, and kids may go in and maybe type easy home row, and they don't get credit for it. So they only get credit for typing the configuration that you've established in the assignment.
All right.
Adrian, also, we have a question from Claire that's in the Q&A. And I know that she's here. Do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So Claire's asking, are the word processing and spreadsheet lessons platform specific? Are they based on Microsoft or Google? So we tried to keep those fairly general. However, when they go into, so for a lot of those lessons, there's PDFs that you can download so that they can actually practice it in the platform. And those are generally Microsoft Office based. So going into PowerPoint and Word and things like that. And yeah. So, but we're also in the process. We've been talking about updating those lessons too. So stay tuned because there may be changes to that computer applications
And
unit.
as I recall, it's not going into like the super complicated formulas in Excel, right?
No.
So the basics that are being taught, things like, formatting, how margins work, bold, italics, are pretty much in common between those, right? The button might be in a different place, but we're kind of showing how to recognize that button, what it does, and how to use it, which is going to kind of apply to either.
Yeah, it should be fine to use with sheets as well. But yeah, there may be some small differences, but we tried to keep that fairly general so that it would apply to multiple platforms.
And I'll just quickly replace the current share for a second to buttress what Brent
Sure.
had said. This is what Brent had answered with regard to Tisha's question. So you can see I'm in the middle of assigning an assignment there, and it's I have to actually specify the difficulty and the word list that being used, and then so if they're not actually doing exactly what was given to them, they won't get credit for that. You can take over the share again.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're just basically just keeping our, here's how to get a hold of us while we see if any other questions
yeah.
come in. And I
Well,
think there
there,
was one
yeah,
more.
there is one. Maybe Brent, you could speak to this from Stephanie. How can we delete previous teachers from
Brent, we
student
always think you're
accounts?
going to be off the hook, but then,
We
something roster
try.
related always
Yeah,
kind of comes in at
that's
the
right.
end.
Exactly. She says that she has some teachers from up to 2 years ago still in her account. So I'm
So Stephanie, I would have to see how you're rostering right now. It sounds like you're probably rostering with just a username or Google. In this case, I would need to look into your account. Usually, if you are an admin, you can just go into typing.com and remove them. Now, if you are not, you wouldn't be able to do that. So I would say reach out to support at typing.com and submit a question about this, and we can get it worked out for you.
yeah. Okay.
And let's see. I think I got one more question. Any advice on how to get students to keep their hands on the home row? Just remove all the other keys, right? That's um I I always explain this one saying that the methodology that typing.com uses, which is a little bit different, without getting kind of too into the science of it. It's a little bit different than like standard home row teaching. We're always showing the finger placement in the right area, but we specifically introduce a few keys at a time. And we do that for a reason. We're building muscle memory. So when kids are starting at a young age and their hands aren't that big, it's hard for them to cover the whole keyboard, right? And when you introduce just the home row, they're often stretching, they're doing that more hunting and pecking. The way that we do it by introducing a few keys that are a specific distance apart, when they first practice, it's easier for them to use different fingers, right? And to use the correct fingers than it would be to like move one back and forth. And so they're building that correct muscle memory with the right fingers. And then as we introduce more keys, they continue to build on that muscle memory. So I guess the shorter answer is to say like kind of by starting at the beginning of our program and following the methodology of introducing keys that way, it should naturally help them to use the correct fingers in the right place. And that's kind of what all of typing.com's methodology is based on, right? We don't we don't start with a typing test to see how fast kids can type at the beginning, because typing fast doesn't mean that they're typing with their fingers in the right place. So kind of starting at the beginning and using that methodology should help them develop the right muscle memory with their fingers to keep them in the right place and use the right fingers for the right keys.
I would also say too, if you're noticing that kids after they've, completed some of the beginning lessons and they're progressing, they've like gone back to some bad habits and you're noticing that they're not keeping their hands on the home row, you can always go back and assign them, or have them go back and do some of those learn the key lessons again, just as a refresher, so that they aren't just continuing with those bad habits as the curriculum, ramps up in difficulty.
Brent,
Yeah.
did you have a chance to look into Stephanie's issue? If not, I can move on to other stuff.
Stephanie's issue may be resolved. Stephanie, reach out if it's not.
Oh, wow, just like that. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And then I noticed somebody, Kristen,
Oh,
actually
yeah.
said that she teaches her kids about the bumps on F and J. We talk about staying there and everything else falls into place. She also uses keyboard covers, soft cloth laid over the hands. I also know there are those ones that are sort of cardboard that go over top. So that's some good ways to keep them from drifting off home row or looking. So thank you for that, Kristen.
You also could make, because we have, the hands at the bottom of the screen, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they can like choose the type of hands that they have, correct? So that also adds like right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
They
Depending on
also,
the
if
theme.
they're having a hard time, you also could say to incentivize it a little bit as like, you can choose the hands that are going to show up, down there. And just to remind them to look at those hands that are on the screen, because it's like, it's representing their hands that are on the keys if they're in the right place.
That is a good point. If I can sign in, I'll show that feature.
I'm not
Let's
sure I
see.
know that feature.
What? Really? That's our
Choosing
theme
the
I
right
hope
screen.
it's still
hands.
there. Now I've promised everyone
Oh no, it
a
absolutely
fun thing
is.
to incentivize. And if it's
I'm
not,
gonna I'm gonna quickly show that.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have like
yeah.
beast
So we've
hands,
got
and then they'll look at the beast hands
is
instead
it
of
Party Bear, Brent? Do I
yeah.
choose Party Bear? Like,
Yeah.
okay, so let's just go back to lessons and I'll just do JF space or something like that.
Maybe because when I look
Yeah,
at
there it
lessons,
is.
I'm
Bear
typically doing like
hands.
the teacher preview
And
and
there's
not
like
logging in as
pirate
a
hands
student.
and all sorts of stuff. So it all depends on the theme
So maybe that'll
that you're
redirect
using.
them to looking at the screen rather than their hands if they have something fun.
It might, exactly. There was a question from an anonymous attendee that we may need to actually look into your account to try to resolve this. But they say, I have some students who have withdrawn but cannot remove them from the program, even though they have been removed from Google Classroom. How do I remove? It sounds like obviously they're using Google SSO for that.
Yeah. If you have issues with this, reach out and we can remove their accounts if it's not working.
So support at typing.com.
Yep.
Okay, great.
And then I
Nice.
see one more in here. Can you start with the grade level even if no prior typing experience?
Yes. Yeah, you can, because we have Learn the Keys is the first unit for every single grade level. And I mean that it varies between, the content for kindergarten is
That's
different
right.
than the content for fifth grade or high school. But it still is an introductory, here's how you type each key. So yes, if you have a kid who's never typed before and they're in sixth grade, you can still start them in the sixth grade curriculum.
Right. The content will still be more relevant. What you might see is that they have, a little bit lower accuracy or lower words per minute. And that's where that, being able to set the benchmarks, the thresholds that they need to progress. You can meet them where they're at and say, hey, like this student, can have a much lower words per minute or lower accuracy in order to progress, but the content will still be more relevant at that grade level.
Excellent.
Okay.
Right. Oh, just the
Well, I was
last.
just gonna,
Yeah.
we were, I think, both about to say, it looks like there's no more
That's right. Yeah,
questions. And
exactly.
then sure
Yeah.
enough,
All right. So Stephanie asks, is there a way that the keyboard could stay popped up on iPads instead of scrolling and hitting a button to pop it up? It has been hard for K kids. I assume that like kindergarten kids, is that what we mean there?
This is tough because it's a built-in iOS functionality. Um, and I agree that that is frustrating. I will actually put a ticket into our system to see if we can look into this for you. Because as you transition screens, it would be nice to just leave it up there, right? Or if you land on the screen, it'd be nice if it automatically popped up for you when you started typing. So we'll look into that.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that we have to hope Apple lets you have some control over
Mm.
this. Often they don't. So,
Is that for the iOS like on-screen keyboard to
yeah,
actually show up?
yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's a great question.
Okay. Last call for questions before we give you probably 20 minutes of your afternoon or middle of day lunch hour back. I think that's it. We don't have the closing slide up, but again, sales at typing.com. Thank you, Shawn. Would be
Yes.
questions for plus inquiries and support at typing.com, support questions. Thank you, those of you this close to Christmas that gave us some of your time today. I really appreciate it. Always awesome to hear from people that are actually using the product. And yeah, please don't hesitate to write to either of those email addresses if you need further help. So thanks so
And check
much.
the YouTube channel as well. We don't
Yeah.
highlight that enough, but there's a lot of great content on there. A ton of the questions that, might be 5 to 10 emails back and forth to get something figured out are really nicely laid out in, a how-to video. We have a playlist that's just a how-to playlist that goes through a lot of the top questions that we've gotten. So we kind of have screen shares and walk through them, as well as some really in-depth articles in our Help Scout that can help out quite a bit as well. So um,
Yeah.
support at typing.com, sales at typing.com for anything plus related, and then the YouTube channel, What's New in Help Scout, a lot of resources for you. We hope to hear from you. We hope those resources can be helpful. And we thank you for joining us and hope you have a great holiday season coming up.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.